Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about tapping this hole here. So we got our part done and we got it drilled, and we're going to use this machine here. This is basically a tapping fixture, a tapping jig. All right. Now, fortunately for us, we've already got set up in here a half 20, and the half 20 is what we're going to be using for this project here today. And we're going to run that, but we got to figure out how to get this in there and how to clamp our part. So I'm going to set this down, and so you guys can get a good look at what's going on here. And this collet holds the cutter in it with the set screws here, and you make sure this is clean. This spindle gets pulled up, and then you rotate it until it snaps into place, and now the cutter is set up. You can easily pull it back out. So before we get that done, what we're going to do is we're going to set this part in, and like this, and we have to set where this is going to travel to. So there's going to be a range that this will travel, and I found that the right hole for this, and I'm going to put it in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that's sitting flat, and I'm going to snug it down. Okay, so now this part can't twist. All right, and that's the whole idea. So we want to make sure that there's no burrs in there. We can pick this up, rotate, snap into place, and while we're holding this up, we can slide our part in and gently put it down right where it's supposed to be. Okay, so we're going to be gentle with that. Now, before we get to cranking on anything, we're going to make sure that we use this Tap Magic. That's the appropriate fluid to be using for this project here. And if you find that this is empty for you, then it is very simple to go find more in the cabinet. Or usually there's several of these sitting around. So make sure your threads are reasonably coated with that, and set that off to the side. And then what's going to happen is we're going to use these crank handles right here to crank this tap through to create the thread. Now, what we don't want to do is we don't want to just grab this and start spinning it around, because it's going to load chips up in here, and then it's going to start tearing up some of the threads that were cut. So here's the method we're going to use. We're going to go ahead and a little tiny bit of down pressure here. It doesn't take much. We're going to go ahead and make a revolution, okay, and then probably a half for the first one. And then we're going to back up about a quarter, and we're going to feel it like snug there. And we're going to just kind of play with it and break that loose, and we'll feel that break. And then we're going to go back to one revolution, and we're going to back off, and we're going to break that chip. And then we're going to go another revolution, and then we're going to back off and just kind of bump gently to break that chip, and then another revolution, and we're going to kind of bump that to break that chip. And listen, what I'm saying may not make a whole lot of sense, but I promise you once you get on there, you'll feel like, oh yeah, I feel that. Well, you don't just want to tear into it and pull it back like that, because you can also damage the threads. So just kind of bumping it and working it a little bit helps to break that thread just nicely. So again, a revolution is suitable for doing this. And just break that chip, go around the other revolution, break the chip. And so I'm going to go ahead and try to work on it a little faster. All right, and you will notice when it gets close to the bottom that it gets a little easier, and when it does get easy, you can make sure that you go through and give it definitely a couple turns. And the reason being is because even though it's starting to get a little bit easier, there's a little bit of a taper at the bottom of the thread, and that taper, you have to make sure that it cuts all the way through into solid threads so that your part is threaded, in fact, all the way through. After that, you can go ahead and wind this back up. And then simply pull this away, and then your part can be taken out, and then that's done, ready for deburr.